It started with a lemon slice in her drink. That sounds stupid, I know. But it's the little things that tell you everything if you're paying attention. Ashley hated lemon. I knew this because I'd been the one to pick them off her plate, drop them into my water glass every time we went out to eat. It was our thing. But on the day that should have been ours, I watched her lift a glass of something bubbly with a thick lemon wedge floating on top like it belonged there. And she didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She just laughed. Not the nervous, half-controlled kind of laugh you'd expect from a bride overwhelmed by her own party. No, this was sharp, easy, careless. She looked radiant. Too radiant, honestly, like someone who had already grieved and moved on from something I hadn't yet discovered. I wasn't even supposed to see the drink. I had stepped away to speak with my cousin near the bar. A brief moment to breathe before we were swarmed by the DJ's playlist and our parents' endless line of congratulations. But there she was, backlit by soft garden lights, holding her drink too confidently, talking to someone I couldn't see behind the hedge of white hydrangeas. Then his hand came into view. Big, tan, veiny, gym handshake kind of hand. Fingers that belonged to someone who never sat still. He leaned closer and she tilted her head up just enough for me to notice something else. The way her smile slid into place a half-second too late. As if it wasn't meant for me. I didn't recognize him right away. But then I saw the outline of a wolf tattoo on his forearm, mostly hidden under a rolled-up sleeve. And my stomach turned over. Derek. The only person in the world I had asked her not to invite. The one name that made me feel like I was 16 again and second best. 3 days before the wedding, we had fought about him. Actually, not fought. Fighting implies two people are involved. I raised the issue. She shut it down. He's not a threat. He's my past, she said, standing barefoot in our hallway, holding her phone behind her back like a teenager caught texting under the covers. I can't just erase people from my life because you're insecure. Insecure, I repeated, like I needed the word to echo in the air before I could believe she'd actually said it. He's not even staying for the whole thing, she added. He's just paying his respects. Paying respects? What is this, a funeral? She rolled her eyes and walked off, muttering something about how controlling I was becoming. I didn't push, not because I agreed, but because I was exhausted and afraid, though I wouldn't have called it that at the time. Afraid that pressing harder would lead to a truth I wasn't ready for. So I let it go. And now here he was, at the reception, laughing with her under strings of fairy lights like he belonged there more than I did. I turned back to the bar, asked for something strong, didn't even taste it when I drank. My cousin kept talking about something, God knows what, but I couldn't hear it over the buzzing in my ears. Something was very, very wrong. That's when the microphone feedback hit. Ashley was standing at the front of the tent, tapping on the mic like she'd just decided she had something special to say. The music died down. Conversations stopped. She looked straight at me for a beat. Just one. Then she smiled at the crowd and said, "Before we get back to dancing, I want to take a second to ask something from everyone here." She paused, drew a breath, tilted her head to the side, thoughtful and poised. Like this was a rehearsed scene in a movie she'd always imagined herself starring in. Tonight isn't easy for everyone. Some of us are here with full hearts and some are healing. So please, let's all give Derek a little space tonight. He's doing the best he can, and it means a lot to me that he showed up at all. Silence. A single clink of silverware on porcelain. I didn't move. I didn't blink. The world narrowed to a tunnel around her voice. She just asked 100 people to protect her ex-boyfriend's emotional space. At our wedding, she put the mic down and walked off like she'd just announced the dinner menu. No one clapped. No one spoke. But something shifted. You could feel it. People avoided my eyes. A few tried to act normal. I saw one of my groomsmen whisper something to his girlfriend. My sister, bless her, looked like she was about to stand up and flip a table. I didn't wait. I walked straight out of the tent, past the valet, down the gravel path behind the venue, into the parking lot, keys in hand before I even knew what I was doing. No note, no text, no dramatic exit. Just me, the sound of my dress shoes on the asphalt, and a question I couldn't shake. Why did she really want him there? And why the hell did she ask for space? For him, on the one day that was supposed to be about us. I didn't go back that night, and I wouldn't go back for the next part of this story either. Because the next morning I woke up to 37 missed calls, a voicemail from her dad, and a screenshot that made everything else look like a joke. The screenshot came from my sister. No warning, no "hey, are you sitting down?" Nothing to soften it. Just a single image attached to a 3-word message. "You need this." It hit my phone at 6:12 a.m. while I sat in my car in the gravel parking lot of a Shell station. The tux jacket crumpled in the back seat and my bow tie still looped around my neck like a noose. I hadn't slept. Hadn't even gone to a hotel. I just drove aimlessly until my fuel light came on, parked, and stared at the ceiling of my car like it might give me a reason for what she did. Then I opened the screenshot. It was a blurry iPhone capture of Ashley's Instagram DMs, with the name Derek Miles at the top and a row of recent messages below it. There was a green dot next to his name. Active now. I didn't even know my sister had access to Ashley's DMs. I still don't. She won't tell me. Maybe she saw Ashley leave her phone open at some point during the reception. Maybe she guessed her password. I didn't ask because it didn't matter. Once I saw what was there, everything else became irrelevant. "You sure he bought it?" "Don't care. He walked out." "That's what you wanted, right?" "I didn't think it'd be that easy tbh. He always runs when he gets uncomfortable. Like clockwork." They weren't talking about anyone else. My name didn't have to be in the messages. I was the context. I kept rereading that last one. He always runs when he gets uncomfortable. Like clockwork. She knew I'd leave. She wanted me to. She designed the moment like it was theater. Everything started snapping into place with horrifying speed. The weird calm she had the whole week before the wedding, the last-minute venue change that made no sense, the bizarre way she avoided talking about honeymoon plans. She'd even told me, casually, that she wouldn't be mad if I bailed during the rehearsal dinner. I thought she meant from the stress. Now I know better. Ashley never wanted a wedding. She wanted a scene, and I had played my part like a damn professional. The messages continued. "Guess we're clear now. He'll probably ghost completely. Good. Finally. Now we can breathe." I didn't even realize I was gripping the phone so hard until I dropped it into my lap and saw the red marks across my palm. I wasn't even angry yet. Not really. Anger needs air. What I felt was more like suffocation. Like the moment you realize you've been swimming in what you thought was clean water, only to find blood in it. I texted my sister. "Did she know you saw this?" She replied. "She left her phone in the bridal suite. I saw it open while grabbing my purse. She doesn't know. Yet." I sat there for 20 more minutes, staring at the gas pump. Then I turned the car around. Not back to the wedding venue. I had no intention of walking into that wreckage while people were still sweeping up champagne flutes. No, I drove straight to our apartment. Or I guess I should say her apartment now. I wasn't ready for what I found. The front door was slightly ajar. A carry-on suitcase was missing from the closet. Her vanity drawers were half open, like she'd pulled things out in a rush. The closet was messier than I'd ever seen it, and a post-it note was stuck to the bathroom mirror. One sentence, all in capital letters. "Don't make this a bigger deal than it is." I stood there for 10 whole minutes, staring at that note, letting the layers of its insult peel off one by one. Not an apology. Not a phone call. Not even a full sentence that acknowledged what she did. Just a gaslight yellow square with a message so cold, so arrogantly detached. I actually laughed. Then the buzzer rang. I didn't move. It buzzed again, longer this time. I walked to the intercom, pressed the button, said nothing. Her voice came through, too clear, too casual. "I just need to grab a few things. Can you not make this dramatic?" I stared at the speaker, stunned. "You planned this," I said. There was a pause, then a sigh. "It's not what you think." That's rich, coming from someone who staged a public breakup in a white dress. "I didn't stage anything. You left. That was your choice." That's when the anger finally arrived. Not loud, not messy, quiet, clean, cold. "You wrote the script. I just read my lines. I didn't let her in. She stood outside for 10 minutes, maybe more. Knocked a few times. Even called once. Then she left. And the silence she left behind was louder than anything I'd ever heard. That I had forgotten about the iPad. It was hers technically, but we shared the Apple ID. Got it on Black Friday 2 years ago. She mostly used it for Pinterest boards and editing Instagram reels that made our lives look cleaner than they were. I barely touched it until that afternoon. I was sitting in the middle of the apartment, on the floor, surrounded by the shell of our life. 2 wine glasses still drying on the rack. A sock she must have forgotten near the bed. The ring box still open, empty now like it was yawning at me. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just sat there, like my brain had given up trying to explain any of this. And then I saw it on the nightstand, charging, screen dark. The iPad. I picked it up out of instinct. No real plan, just hands doing something because they didn't know what else to do. Tapped the screen. Unlocked it with my thumb.
Familiar wallpaper. Familiar apps.
And then a notification popped up in the corner. Photos. 19 items just added to recents. I didn't think. I opened the app. And there it was. Photos. Dozens. All from the last 48 hours. All synced to the same shared cloud. Taken from her phone. Unfiltered. Unguarded. And devastating. The first one hit like a punch. Ashley in a white silk robe. Not the one she wore for our wedding morning, a different one. Standing in a hotel room mirror. Hair undone.
No makeup.
A kiss mark on her collarbone. The second. Derek behind her. Shirtless. Brushing his teeth. Looking at the camera through the reflection. Smirking. The third. 2 wine glasses on the edge of a bathtub. Her hand. Definitely hers. Reaching into the frame. Holding a gold necklace I had given her last Christmas. The caption. Written in small white font in the corner. Glad I'm finally done pretending. That's when my stomach dropped. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just a betrayal of vows or trust. This was a performance. She had planned it. Down to the shots. She had the awareness to frame these moments like memories. Like trophies. Not the secret, guilty kind of photos people hide in folders. These were celebratory. As if she wanted the universe to know what she'd done. And that she didn't regret a second of it. The timestamps told the rest of the story. Photo 1. Taken 11:34 a.m. The morning of our wedding. Photo 2. 2:02 a.m. Just hours after I left the reception. Photo 3. 10:18 a.m. The morning after. The same time she was supposedly frantically calling to find me. And then came the videos. Short clips, 2 or 3 seconds each. Enough to make it clear what was happening. Never graphic, but unmistakable. In one, Derek panned across the hotel room while she twirled in a white slip, holding a glass of champagne. She mouthed something into the camera. I had to rewind 3 times before I caught it. Here's to freedom. I put the iPad down, stood up, walked into the bathroom, stared into the mirror, and I said something out loud. Not to myself, not to the walls, but to whatever version of me had stood on that altar 24 hours ago thinking love was enough. You're not going back. Because up until that moment, I hadn't fully decided. A part of me, as broken as it sounds, had been holding on to the hope that this was some emotional explosion, some horrible, chaotic accident. That maybe I'd missed something. But now I knew. This wasn't chaos. This was cruelty. Deliberate. Polished. Documented. I called my sister. Tell Dad to cancel the brunch, I said. What brunch? The post-wedding thing. She's not my wife. There was a pause. Are you okay?
No.
But I will be. I hung up.
Back to back.
I didn't leave a note. The next time Ashley would hear from me would be through a lawyer. But before I left, I backed up everything. The photos, the videos, the messages, and sent them to a folder labeled Truth. Not for revenge. Not even for closure. For memory. Because if there's one thing this nightmare taught me, it's that people like her don't rewrite history. They delete it. And I wasn't going to let her do that. She let herself in like nothing had happened.
No knock.
No warning. Just the soft click of the front door unlocking, followed by the deliberate sound of her heels, because of course she wore heels, crossing the threshold like she still lived here. Like she hadn't detonated the whole place 24 hours earlier and walked away from the smoke. I was in the kitchen, sitting at the table with the iPad in front of me. I didn't flinch. I wanted her to see me with it. I wanted her to know I knew. Ashley stepped in wearing a beige trench coat, still dressed like the main character in whatever movie she thought this was. Her makeup was perfect, her posture flawless, and yet, her eyes gave her away. Not scared, not sad, annoyed, like I was the inconvenience. She looked around like she was inspecting a hotel room someone else had trashed. Then her eyes landed on me. "Okay," she said, exhaling sharply. "Can we talk like adults?" I didn't move. I didn't speak. "I figured you'd be here sulking," she added, dropping her keys on the counter like this was just a Tuesday and not the aftermath of emotional arson. "I didn't come to fight. I came to explain." "Explain?" I said flatly. "What?" "That thing's got out of control." I tilted the iPad toward her, screen still lit. One of the photos was still open, the one of her in the hotel mirror, Derek behind her, the timestamp blinking softly at the bottom. She looked at it, just for a second. Then she rolled her eyes. "Oh God, is this seriously what you're doing now? Snooping through my stuff like a stalker?" That was it. That was her opening move. Not denial. Not apology. Deflection. "You left it unlocked," I said, "and synced to our shared cloud. I didn't have to snoop. It found me." She folded her arms. "So what? You're building some kind of case now? Is this your courtroom fantasy or something?" That's when I stood up. Not fast. Not angry. Just done. "I want you out," I said. She blinked, like she didn't hear me correctly. "Excuse me? I want you out. Of this apartment. Of this story. Of my life." She let out a bitter laugh. "You're seriously kicking me out over messages? Over a few dumb pictures? You cheated." She shrugged. "Technically, we weren't married yet." I actually smiled. Not because it was funny, but because of course that's the angle she'd take. The loophole. The technicality. The thread she could pull to pretend none of it mattered. "And the messages? The ones where you say you wanted me to leave? That I always run?" Her jaw tensed, but she kept her tone smug. "People vent. You choreographed the whole thing," I said, stepping closer. "You invited him, toasted him, staged the exit, and then spent the night in a hotel bed with the guy you told me meant nothing. He's stable," she said sharply. You're always just reacting, emotionally all over the place. Because I feel things. Because you dramatize everything." I shook my head. "You planned a public humiliation and called it closure. You didn't want to marry me. You wanted an audience for your escape. That one hit. I saw it in her eyes. Just for a second the mask slipped. But then it was back. You're not innocent either," she snapped. "You made me feel trapped for years. You were boring, predictable, safe. You never challenged me." "Love isn't a challenge," I said. "It's not a game you win by wrecking the other person." Her silence was deafening. She picked up her keys again. "You'll get over it," she muttered. I stepped aside as she passed. No parting shot.
No good vie.
But just as she reached the door, she stopped. "You know," she said without turning around, "if you hadn't made such a big deal about Derek, none of this would have happened." I stared at her back. "And if you hadn't needed attention so badly," I said, "you wouldn't be walking out of this apartment with nothing." That was the last thing I ever said to her. She closed the door behind her, quietly, and I stood there, finally understanding that people don't always fall out of love. Sometimes they were never really in it. They were just rehearsing. It came from a burner account. No profile picture, no posts, no name. Just a single message request on Instagram that slipped into my inbox around 2:17 a.m. While I sat on the floor of the now half-empty bedroom, sifting through the pieces of a life that suddenly felt borrowed. The message simply read, "You're not the first. If you want answers, call me. I'm not doing this over text." Then a number. Out-of-state area code. No name. I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to ignore it. I mean, how many horror stories start with some anonymous stranger reaching out with cryptic information about your ex? It screams scam, or stalker, or some bitter friend of Derek's trying to stir up more chaos. But something about the wording got under my skin. Not just the message, but the timing, the precision. Like someone had been watching this unfold and finally decided to pull the curtain back. I waited another 10 minutes. Then I called. A woman answered. Voice low, calm, measured. Is this Noah? She asked. Yeah, I said slowly. Who is this? A pause. Then, my name's Claire. I was engaged to Derek. 2 years ago. The world tilted. I didn't say anything for several seconds. My brain scrambled to find the right response, but it came out in pieces. You were... to Derek? Yes, she said. And I know who Ashley is. Because she was the reason he left me. Another pause. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but when I saw what happened at your wedding, when her cousin posted the video of her little toast, I knew it had started again. So I figured, maybe you'd want to know what kind of pattern you're dealing with. It felt like someone had poured cold water down my spine. Wait, what video? She has a cousin, right? Megan or Morgan or something. She was live on Instagram during the reception. The video's gone now, but I screen recorded it. I can send it to you if you want. Please, I said immediately. Came through while we were still on the phone. I opened it, and my heart stopped. It was Ashley, right there in the tent, holding the mic just like I remembered, but this time I saw it from a different angle. A wide shot. Enough to see her glancing directly at Derek as she gave that speech. And not just a glance. A smile. A signal. You see it, right? Claire said on the other end of the line. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, forgetting she couldn't see me. She's done this before, Claire continued. She gets in with a guy who's stable, dependable. Uses him to build the image, safety, commitment, long-term stuff. Meanwhile, she keeps Derek on a leash. He breaks things off when she tells him to. Comes back when she snaps her fingers. But, how do you know all this? Because I was you. 2 years ago, I bought the ring, planned the wedding. We were 4 months out, and then Ashley reappeared. She showed up at Derek's apartment one night while I was out of town. Told him she made a mistake, that she still thought about him. Same old lines. And he dropped you. Didn't even tell me in person, she said. I came back from a work trip and half his stuff was gone. I only found out she was involved because he didn't wipe his iPad. Same cloud account. Same folder full of photos. My mouth went dry. Was she in white again? Oh yeah, she said darkly. Silk robe. Same hotel too. Room 516 at the Ivywood in Charlotte. That's their spot. Always has been. I sat back, stunned. Patterns. Rehearsals. Scripts. This wasn't love. It was production. And I had been cast as a placeholder. A stabilizer. A warm-up act for a finale that had already been written. Why are you telling me this? I asked, still spinning. Because no one told me, Claire said simply. And if someone had, I might have walked away before I lost 2 years of my life to a lie. I was quiet. Then I said the only thing I could think of. Thank you. Before we hung up, she sent one more thing. A screenshot from Ashley's old Finsta. An account I'd never seen before. Buried under a fake name and a quote from a Lana Del Rey song. The post was a picture of Derek asleep in bed, his face turned away from the camera. Her caption read, "He always comes home when I call, even if someone else has the keys." Posted 4 days before our engagement. I didn't sleep that night, but I did book an appointment with a lawyer. Her father showed up in a navy windbreaker and loafers, the kind of outfit old school men wear when they're about to break someone's heart or a window, depending on the situation. He rang my doorbell at exactly 9:03 a.m. Punctual, like always. I hadn't spoken to him since the night before the wedding, when he gave me a firm handshake and a quiet nod, like I just passed some invisible rite of passage. Back then, he looked at me like a son. Now he looked like a man walking into a courtroom, unsure of the verdict. I opened the door. He didn't smile. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. No small talk. I had already sent him the folder truth.zip, password protected. He didn't respond, but I knew he'd opened it. He was the kind of man who believed in evidence. A former lieutenant colonel. Believed in timelines, accountability, silence as a weapon. He sat down at the dining table, the one Ashley and I had picked out together when we moved in. "I've seen enough," he said. I nodded. I figured. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. Placed it gently on the table between us. That's everything I had from her old phone. I kept backups. Photos, messages, call logs. From when she was living at home during that first breakup with Derek. I thought maybe it would help you see the whole picture. I hesitated. "You kept her data?" "I'm not proud of it," he admitted. "But I knew something was wrong with how she moved through people. And I didn't know how else to prove it to myself." He leaned forward, resting his hands on the table, fingers interlocked. "She did the same thing to her high school boyfriend. And the one in college. Always someone on the hook, someone in the wings. She'd light the match, wait for the flames, then play victim in the smoke." He looked me dead in the eye. "She's not a bad person," he said slowly. "But she is dangerous when she thinks she's cornered. Emotionally reckless. Cold when it suits her. And she's smart enough to twist a story until you don't know what's real anymore." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He was describing the exact hurricane I just crawled out of. He reached into his other pocket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. Opened it. Took out a folded piece of paper and slid it across the table. "I visited her this morning," he said. I froze. "You what?" He nodded. "She was at Derek's apartment. Didn't even try to hide it. I didn't tell her I'd seen the folder. Just said I wanted to check in. See how she was holding up after you. Disappeared. And," she smiled, like none of it touched her. "Said you were being dramatic. Said she expected you to make a big deal out of it." I clenched my jaw. She said. He looked up at me again, his voice bitter. That the wedding was more about closure than commitment. The silence after that was unbearable. Then he pointed at the piece of paper on the table. "That's a copy of her hotel receipt," he said. "Room 516, Ivywood Hotel. Checked in the morning of your wedding. Derek paid. But she added both their names to the reservation." He paused. "She told me she wasn't planning on staying the night, but her bag was packed. You don't pack an overnight bag for a maybe." I nodded slowly, hands in my lap, trying to hold back the new wave of nausea that rose every time another piece of truth dropped onto the table. "I told her she's cut off," he said. "No more rent. No more car payments. I gave her enough rope. She chose to hang someone else with it." He stood up. "You didn't deserve any of this," he said. "But you're lucky in a way. You saw it early. Most people don't see it until they're 10 years in, 2 kids deep, and questioning everything." He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Just one thing," he added. "Don't play the good guy in her story. She's already writing the next chapter, and trust me, you're the villain now. Let her write it. Let her lie. Just don't answer the phone when she gets bored." Then he was gone. The flash drive stayed on the table. Later that night, I plugged it into my laptop, scanned through hundreds of files. And in one folder, labeled Lighthouse, I found an old video clip. Ashley lying on her childhood bed, talking to someone off camera. "I just want someone who makes my life feel like a movie," she said, smiling. "Even if it means rewriting the ending." She didn't mean fiction. She meant real life. She meant me. It started with a caption. A week had passed since the wedding. That wasn't. My lawyer had everything. The apartment lease was transferred to me, utilities cut, ring returned, bank accounts separated. Emotionally, I wasn't healed, but I was steady. Enough to go outside without clenching my jaw. Enough to stop waking up to phantom phone vibrations. And then she posted. It was a carousel. 5 carefully curated photos. Her in a soft beige sweater on some downtown rooftop. Coffee cup in one hand, wind catching her hair just enough to look accidental. In one shot, she was laughing. In another, looking wistfully into the distance, like she just remembered something tragic but poetic. The caption read, "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from something that almost convinced you to settle. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just peace. No mention of the wedding. No mention of me. Just strategic vagueness and a curated victimhood vibe with just enough salt to poison the well." Within minutes, the comments rolled in. "So proud of you, girl. You're glowing. We saw the signs. Glad you're finally free. Let him talk. You don't owe anyone your story. Real ones know what actually happened. The rest can wonder. I wasn't tagged. But everyone knew. Her followers knew. Our mutual friends knew." Her little cousin, who posted the wedding video, had now commented 3 red heart emojis. I stared at the post for a long time. Not out of sadness. Not out of confusion. Out of sheer disbelief at how quickly she flipped the narrative.
No remorse. No admission.
Just I grew. He broke. The end. My inbox started lighting up. Friends asking if I'd seen it. Coworkers pretending to check in while not so subtly nudging the topic. One guy from our gym straight up asked if I cheated. "Bro, did you really walk out on your own wedding and then start telling people she set you up?" That was the moment. That was the fuse. Because the thing with liars is they don't just want to escape the truth. They want to erase it. Rewrite it. Make you the unreliable narrator in your own life. And I wasn't going to let that happen. I didn't post photos. I didn't rant. I uploaded a single screenshot to my story, on a black background, white text. A screenshot of one of Ashley's messages to Derek, timestamped 2 hours before our wedding. "He won't see it coming. I know how to make him walk." I blurred nothing. Didn't tag her. Didn't need to. The internet moves fast when you give it fuel. My DMs exploded. The same people who just left heart emojis on her post were now backpedaling in mine. "Wait. What is this? Damn, bro. She really said that." I just deleted my comment. I didn't know the whole story. She deleted her post within 2 hours. Then she texted me, "Ashley, that was private. You crossed a line." Me? "So did you." In white. Then I blocked her. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about going viral or scoring points. It was about oxygen. She tried to suffocate me with her version of events. Rewrite the wreckage to make it look like healing. But I wasn't going to let my silence become her alibi. She tried again 2 days later. Different platform. A soft notes app statement uploaded to her story, in lowercase, of course. It read, "Sometimes people we love don't show up for us the way we hoped. I forgive, but I won't be silenced."
I'm choosing grace.
Grace, apparently, now included manipulating strangers into thinking you'd been abandoned at the altar instead of orchestrating the entire downfall. But I didn't answer that one. Didn't need to, because by then, something strange had happened. People started messaging me not to ask questions but to tell stories. People I didn't know. People who had dated her, worked with her, gone to college with her. One girl said she'd been Ashley's roommate sophomore year and had watched her steal another girl's boyfriend while they were all in the same friend group. She said something I'll never forget. "Ashley doesn't love people. She uses them to find out what she's worth in the moment. And when it's not enough, she burns it down and blames the smoke." 5 words. That's all it took to shut her whole performance down. Not a quote. Not a clapback. Just 5 words. "He won't see it coming." It happened at a grocery store of all places. Not a dramatic airport gate. Not a run-in at some wedding we were both accidentally invited to. Just a Tuesday afternoon at a suburban Whole Foods. The kind of place you only go when you're trying to convince yourself your life is back on track and overpriced blueberries will fix the hollow space in your chest. I was standing in the aisle staring blankly at a wall of oat milk options, probably spending way too much time deciding between barista blend and organic unsweetened, when I heard a voice behind me say, "Noah." My body stiffened before my mind caught up. I turned slowly, half expecting it to be someone else. Someone who wasn't the woman who'd orchestrated a public execution of our relationship in a dress she once called the beginning of everything. But it was her. "Ashley."
No makeup.
"Hoodie." hair up in a loose bun. She looked smaller than I remembered. Like the illusion of her had been inflated by lighting and lies and was now slowly deflating under the weight of her own aftermath. We stood there in silence for a few seconds too long. Then she offered a soft, practiced smile. The kind that says, "I'm the bigger person," before a single word even leaves the mouth. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said. "Didn't expect to be seen," I replied. Flat, civil, controlled. She looked at the floor, then back up. "You look different." "Yeah," I said. "Healing does that." She didn't laugh. She didn't even pretend to. She just nodded, as if that answer both wounded and confused her. Then she took a step closer. "I'm not here to fight," she said. I didn't like how it all ended." "You didn't like the consequences," I corrected. She blinked. Quick, like that caught her off guard. "I was going through a lot," she offered, reaching into the old well of excuses. "You have no idea what I was carrying. You made it about betrayal when it was really a choice," I said, cutting her off. "You made a choice. Several, actually. You planned my exit like a twist ending. Wrote it, cast it, filmed it." She looked like she wanted to argue. Instead, she sighed. "You're still angry." "I'm not," I said honestly. "I was. But now, I'm just disappointed. You were smart. You were capable. You could have built anything. Instead, you turned your life into a stage play where you're always the misunderstood heroine." Her jaw tightened. "You don't know what I've been through since." "I don't need to," I replied, "because you made sure I never mattered in your version of the story. And I'm not here to audition for the rewrite." We stood there for a second, oat milk shelves quietly judging both of us. Then she spoke, quieter this time. "I didn't think you'd ever leave. That day, I thought, maybe you'd blow up, cause a scene, try to fix it." "You thought I'd fight to stay after you publicly chose him?" I asked. "After you turned our wedding into his therapy session?" "I didn't choose him," she said quickly. Too quickly. "It wasn't about Derek." "But you still went to room 516, I interrupted. "You still packed a bag before you put on the dress. You still said those things to him behind my back." "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she said, a little shakier now. "You wrote the ending before we even got to the vows," I said. "And then you got mad when I read it aloud." Silence again. Then came the moment I hadn't expected. Her eyes glistened just a little. Not crocodile tears. Not a sob. Just the faint shimmer of someone who finally realizes they're not in control anymore. "You told my dad everything," she said. "He asked for the truth. He cut me off. You earned it." She exhaled. Long, slow. Her posture dropped just enough to show the weight she'd been carrying wasn't so aesthetic after all. "Do you hate me?" she asked finally. I looked at her. The woman who once told me I was her calm. The woman who had shattered me like glass and then swept the shards under her curated Instagram feed. And I said, "No, I just don't respect you anymore." She nodded, almost like she'd expected it, then turned and walked away. No final words. No hug. No slow-motion look back. Just the quiet shuffle of footsteps on polished Whole Foods tile, and a truth hanging between us like smoke that wouldn't clear. I didn't finish my shopping. I left with nothing in my hands but everything finally out of my chest that he was sitting alone in the corner of a barbershop. Of all places. It was a Tuesday again. Go figure. And I had popped in for a quick trim before a job interview. New city, new apartment, new job. I had finally started rebuilding my life in a way that felt mine again. No echoes of her. No sharp corners that reminded me of laughter that wasn't real. The place was quiet. Mid-morning. Just two barbers working. No music. Just the low hum of clippers and small talk. I was scrolling my phone when I heard a name called that made my stomach pause mid-scroll. Derek. He stood up. He hadn't changed much. Still broad-shouldered. Still the kind of jawline you'd find in a gym ad. But there was something else now, something duller in the eyes. A sag in the posture. Like someone who'd been looking for an exit ramp but only found roundabouts. He walked over to the chair next to mine. Sat down. Didn't notice me at first. But then the barber called over. "You got plans today, Derek?" And his voice answered, and that voice. I hadn't heard it in person before. Just on Ashley's phone, in old videos I wasn't supposed to see. But I knew it. That voice was etched into the night that rewrote my life. I turned. Looked. He turned too. And our eyes met. His face dropped half an inch. A flicker of recognition. A flash of discomfort. He gave me the world's shortest nod. I returned it. For a minute we both sat there in silence. The clippers buzzing behind us like a timer counting down. Then he spoke. "You're Noah, right?" I looked straight at him. "Yeah." Another pause. He cleared his throat. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Same." He glanced at the mirror, avoiding direct eye contact. "Look, man, I'm not trying to cause anything. I didn't know how it would all go down with, you know?" "You didn't know she was getting married?" I asked, deadpan. He squirmed. "I mean, I did, but not like that." She made it seem like it wasn't real, like she was doing it because she had to. I turned in my chair slightly, facing him. "She told you I was a placeholder, didn't she?" He didn't answer, just stared down at his hands. "She told you I'd walk," I continued. "Said she needed proof that I wasn't the one. That if I left, it meant I never really cared." His head came up, slowly. "I didn't want to be involved," he said finally. "I swear. I mean, yeah, we've had history. And yeah, I was stupid for showing up. But when she asked me to come to the wedding, she made it sound like it was already over between you two. Like it was just a matter of logistics." "That's her specialty," I said. "Turning lies into paperwork." He actually flinched at that. Then he said something I didn't expect. "She did the same thing to me after you walked." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "She left the hotel the next morning. Told me she needed time. Then disappeared. Blocked my number. Told her cousin I'd served my purpose." He looked at me now, really looked. "I thought she was using you to get back to me. Turns out, she was using both of us for something else entirely." "Control," I said. He nodded. "And an audience." We both sat there. Two men, different lives, same bruise. It wasn't camaraderie. It wasn't bonding. It was something colder, shared damage. The eerie understanding of what it's like to be played by someone who performs love better than she ever practiced it. Then he said the quiet part out loud. "You ever feel like she rehearsed us?" "All the time," I said. He nodded. "I thought I was the main character. You were just the callback." He let out a bitter laugh. "I used to think I ruined her life," he said. "Now I think she never planned to have one. Just stories, arcs, highs, and clean exits. That was it. No apology. No chest-pounding confession. Just the truth laid flat on a barbershop floor between two chairs." He left before I did. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't need to. He gave me the closure Ashley never could. Not by making it better, but by proving it wasn't personal. She didn't destroy me because of who I was. She destroyed me because I fit the role she needed at the time. And now I was out of the cast. I deleted the last photo of her 2 weeks ago. It wasn't dramatic. No late-night whiskey in hand. No swelling music in the background. No final tear sliding down my face. Just a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Me cleaning out my phone to free up storage. And there it was, one of those old candids I used to think was proof of something rare. Her laughing at a summer fair. Cotton candy in one hand. Eyes squinting at the sun like the world was something that only existed to entertain her. I stared at it for a second. Then tapped delete. Gone. That was the last ghost. I won't lie to you. Getting here wasn't smooth. The human brain doesn't heal in a straight line. There were days I wanted to scream. Nights where I played everything back in my head like a crime scene, trying to find the second where I could have stopped it, rewound it, fixed it. I blamed myself. I blamed her. I blamed the universe. Then, slowly, I stopped blaming anything. Because sometimes the most dangerous people don't hurt you with fists or cruelty. They do it with kindness that expires the moment it's no longer useful to them. They love in a way that makes you question your own intuition. They don't hit you. They don't yell. They don't even lie in obvious ways. They just erode you. Silently, elegantly, with carefully curated disappointment and plausible deniability. Ashley didn't break my heart in a burst. She disassembled it, brick by brick, until I didn't recognize the walls I was living in anymore. And now I know the signs. I've stopped romanticizing red flags because they came wrapped in pretty paper. I no longer chase people who confuse mystery with value. And I've learned that peace isn't something you find. It's something you build when the noise finally stops. I still get the occasional message from someone who followed the chaos. Was it all real? Do you think she loved you in her own way? Would you ever talk to her again? Let me answer all three. Yes, it was real. To me. No, she didn't love me. She loved being loved. And no, I'd never let someone with matches near something I've spent years rebuilding. I don't hate her. That's the hardest part to explain. Hate is heavy, and I've carried enough. But I do pity her, because when you treat every person who loves you like a mirror for your insecurities, eventually all you're left with is cracked glass. And the reflection stares back darker every time. I don't know where she is now. Don't care. Last I heard, she was moving cities again. Starting over. Probably crafting a new version of herself for someone who hasn't seen behind the curtain yet. But the thing about masks, they get heavier the longer you wear them. And eventually someone will see the strings. As for me, I'm good. Really. Not in the Instagram inspo quote way. In the real, unglamorous, waking up clear-headed way. I'm working, sleeping, laughing again. Not waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've even started seeing someone. A woman who says what she means and listens when I speak, and doesn't treat honesty like a magic trick. I told her everything. She didn't flinch. She just said, "Thank you for surviving that. Now you get to choose better." So here's my advice to anyone reading this. Anyone sitting in the middle of their own Ashley story. When someone shows you that love is a game to them, walk. Don't wait for the rules to change. They won't. Don't be the next plot point in someone else's performance. Be the main character in your own piece. And if she ever reaches out again, you don't need to yell. You don't need to explain. Just do what I did. Disappear once. And never come back.